Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the next part of my bookshelf tour. This is part 5. I'm not filming in front of the shelves today because they're just a little bit low for me to film in front of, but I will show you the overview now so that you can see exactly what we are going to be talking about, and then I'm going to talk through the books. So this is bookshelf 5. You can see that it is pretty full. I have some more bookmarks in this mug, which is a Wayne Enterprises mug that I got somewhere, I can't remember where. I also have a bowl of replica jewellery and pins and bits and pieces that I keep on my shelf, as well as some more art pens in a Sherlock mug. So I'm going to pull all these books off the shelf and talk to you a little bit more about them. Okay, now that you've seen the overview, if you have missed any of the other parts of the book haul, I will leave them linked on the screen, and also down below there is a playlist for them, so you can definitely check them out. Now we are going to talk specifically about the books that are on bookshelf number 5. The first two books are the first two books in the Aurora Cycle series by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. The first book being Aurora Rising and the second being Aurora Burning. These are the beautiful hardcover editions. I don't normally collect hardcover books, but these two I definitely wanted to. This is a young adult space opera that features a huge cast of characters, and it's set in the year 2380. All the main characters in this story are cadets at a military academy. Star recruit Tyler Jones is about to become the leader of a very elite group of people, and he'll have the pick of his candidates until he goes out and stumbles across Aurora, who is a girl who has been in cryogenic sleep for a very, very long time, and finding her makes him late to his own ceremony, so he ends up with the dregs in his team, as well as the mystery of Aurora on his hands. And they have to band together when things go horribly, horribly wrong. The one thing I really like about this series is how Amie and Jay came up with this cast of characters, and then they very neatly fit them into these roles. So they call the roles the elf or the diplomat, the scientist, the gearhead, the warrior, the pilot, and the mystery girl. And then they really play around with sort of those types of characters. My favourite character in the series is Finian. I love him to pieces, and I would like to see more of him. And while Aurora Burning did a few things I wish the authors hadn't done with some of the characters, I think it's still interesting to see where they're going to take these characters on their journey. So I'm looking forward to the next book. And then there is The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This is kind of a literary fiction potential horror story. I read this many, many years ago. So this came out in 2005, and that's probably when I read it. And I was very intrigued by it because it was a Dracula story, or it was about a character who goes in search of the Dracula myth because she believes something has happened to her father, I think. I have not read it in a very long time, so this is probably due for a reread, which could be interesting because this is probably more litfic than I'm used to, but it's something that I remember really, really loving, and I have got a few other people to read it since then who've also really loved it, so I'm torn between whether I reread it or whether I just keep the memories of really enjoying it in case I don't like it the second time around. Right, next we come to the rest of my Kristoff books. So I have the Lifelike trilogy, which includes Lifelike, Deviate, and True Life. And I think the best way to sum these up is like the tagline on the front of the first book that says, it's Romeo and Juliet meets Mad Max meets X-Men with a little bit of Blade Runner cheering from the sidelines, and that is definitely true. It features sentient robots, sentient android-like creatures, and a whole lot of explosions, and I was pleasantly surprised by this series in the end, so I really enjoyed it. This one's very much young adult science fiction dystopian, so if you like that sort of thing, you might like that. Then we have Kristoff's The Nevernight Chronicles, which are for a much more adult audience. The first book is Nevernight, then you have God's Grave, and then you have Dark Dawn. These books are adult fantasy with assassins and lots of blood and murder, so yes, definitely for adults, but a very enjoyable series. And not everyone likes the narration style in this book. There is a narrator to the story, and the narrator has a very specific voice, and we find out in Dark Dawn who the narrator is, and it makes a whole lot more sense that way. But I really enjoyed it. I liked this writing style. I thought it was fun. And for someone who doesn't like reading a lot of very specific fantasy type things, I loved this. Next up, I have 4 books by Ambelin Kwaymullina, who is an Australian Indigenous author. The very first book I read by her was The Interrogation of a Shala Wolf, which is the first book in the Tribe trilogy. I have read all of the books in the trilogy, but this one is the only one I have in physical form. And this is a YA dystopian sort of story, and our main character, Shala Wolf, has been kidnapped at the start of this book and is being interrogated to find out the whereabouts of the tribe of children that she is living with and hiding with. It sort of goes from there. It's very hard to describe, but it is fantastic. It incorporates a lot of Aboriginal Dreamtime stories into this story, which was fantastic, and I really, really loved the whole series overall. Then I read Catching Tell a Crow, which is another one of her young adult books, and this one was just fantastic. It wove together stories of different characters, but one of our main characters, Beth Catching, is actually dead. She's a ghost, and she follows her father around as he investigates the death of a man in a fire, and she begins to wonder what her connection is to this. The whole thing is great. It's very beautifully told, and Ambelin co-wrote this with, I think, her brother Ezekiel, and Ezekiel's parts are written in verse, and it's just gorgeous. There is Living on Stolen Land, which is also told in verse. And I've talked about this year. It is a prose-style manifesto about our settler colonial present, at once a call and a guide to action. If you're looking at the decolonisation of Australia, it's definitely something to pick up. Ambelin just writes amazing things. And then the last one, and this one was edited by Rebecca Lim and Ambelin Kwaymullina. This is Meet Me at the Intersection, which is a collection of short stories by Own Voices authors. And so it is a collection of memoirs, poetry, and short fiction by writers who are First Nations, people of colour, LGBTQIA+, or living with a disability. And it is a very, very good collection of short stories. I also have Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan. This is one of the first young adult books that I read, and I absolutely adored it. So there is no way I am getting rid of this book because I think it is a really important text. So if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And then last but not least, we have all the Skulduggery Pleasant books. This isn't even all of them. I am a big Skulduggery Pleasant fan. Most of you will know that already because I continue to read the series all the time. Sorry, all the books are falling over. I'm just making sure nothing falls off the bed. All right, so Skulduggery Pleasant is the story of Skulduggery Pleasant, who is a skeleton detective, and he enlists the help of Stephanie, who stumbles across this magical world when her uncle Gordon, who is a very famous writer, passes away and leaves his house and belongings to Stephanie. And what Stephanie quickly uncovers is that all of the things that happened in Gordon's books were inspired by things that actually happened, and she finds herself working alongside Skulduggery to solve all sorts of magical mysteries. And obviously this story is quite long running now, so things have changed and all the characters have grown up and the things that they investigate are slightly different, but the series is still fantastic and very funny. So book 1 is Skulduggery Pleasant, book 2 is Playing with Fire, book 3 is The Faceless Ones, book 4 is Dark Days, book 5 is Mortal Coil, book 6 is Deathbringer, book 7 is Kingdom of the Wicked, book 8 is Last Stand of Dead Men, book 9 is The Dying of the Light, book 10 is Resurrection, and I have 2 copies of this because they changed the covers, and let's just say I'm a completionist sometimes. Book 11 is Midnight, and book 12 is Bedlam. I do have the next book, which I've forgotten off the top of my head what it's called. It's like this cover but green. I should read that at some point. That came out this year. And then I also have 2 other books that fit into the series. So there is Tanith Low in the Maleficent 7, which takes place, I forget, it's about halfway through the original 10 books. And also Armageddon Out of Here, which is a collection of short stories that take place throughout the various stories. So those are all of the books on bookshelf 5. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of them or if you're planning on reading them in the future. I am not sure when I'll film shelf 6, but it is coming, so stay tuned for that. Again, all of the links for previous bookshelf tours will be linked on the screen and below, so you can definitely check them out if you would like to. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are staying safe and healthy, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.